So good morning everyone and a very warm welcome to our May Education Forum meeting, although I'm aware that it's not very warm outside despite it being May. My name is Linda Peat and I'm the Education Lead at Celsius, and it's really nice to see those of you that have not had the chance to meet before, and for those of you who have been to a few of our forum meetings, it's lovely to see you again. I'm delighted today to be able to welcome along our contributors from Social Security Scotland. We have got Tony Mitchell and Emma McGinley with us, who will be taking us through a presentation today about the support and financial assistance that Social Security Scotland might be able to provide to families, young people and care leavers. We will get the chance to properly meet our contributors and ask some questions throughout the morning. And we've also got some other Celsius staff with us today who will be taking part in discussions and helping to facilitate the breakout rooms. Before going into today's theme, I just thought it would be helpful to run through the agenda and also cover some housekeeping. You'll have seen on the slide as you arrived that we will be recording the formal input session, and that we'll make the videos and any of the materials that we produce today on our website in a couple of weeks' time. We will only be recording the main presentation session, but not the breakout rooms, so people can have a good discussion when we're in there looking at the question that Tony and Emma have set. As we are recording during the main presentation section, we would ask you if you wouldn't mind switching your cameras off, and if you'd prefer that your name wasn't identified, please anonymise that. Before we start, I thought it would be helpful just to give some context to today's session. As everyone in the room is probably aware, the Scottish Government has had a significant focus on closing the poverty-related attainment gap in recent years. We know that the evidence shows us that there's a persistent gap in attainment between children who live in the most and the least deprived areas in Scotland. And we also know that children and families who have care experience are disproportionately negatively impacted by poverty, and that's due to the intersectionality of other areas of vulnerabilities that they might face. So this means that children and young people who are or who have previously been looked after are more likely to experience the impact of poverty than all other children. And I think it's important that we recognise when we're talking about poverty that this isn't solely related to a lack of money or material goods, but this can also impact other areas such as access to social, community and relational opportunities. And that can have a really significant impact on children's life experiences and outcomes. We know that education is an area that we see these outcomes in, and is often one of the first places that is able not just to identify areas where families might be struggling or in need of support, but is able to intervene to offer support, advice or signposting to families. Education is the universal service where children spend most of their time, and we know that our schools and our education provisions are often the heart of our communities. Teachers and other education practitioners have a lot of contact with parents, with learners, carers and wider families. So they're often the first people that families and young people approach when they need help. We know though that it can be really difficult to understand and to keep up to date with what support is out there, and that children, young people and families can sometimes be a wee bit reluctant to open up about their circumstances or to seek help if they need it. So that's the reason that we've invited Emma and Tony along today. We hope to be able to spread the word about what financial support might be available to families and young people through Social Security Scotland, and also to inform people about the types of support that the service is able to provide. As I said, we know that education and children's services are often at the very front line, and they're the first port of call for people to approach. So we hope that today will provide some information that can be passed along to colleagues in your own service, but also families and children and young people that you're working with when they might be in need of support. We know that financial assistance alone will not close the poverty-related experience and attainment gap, but we do know that making sure that families and children get the right financial support when they need it, and the financial support that they're entitled to, can be really, really powerful in helping people to move out of poverty and deprivation. So before I hand over to Emma and Tony, I just want to acknowledge that everyone in the room will have different experiences in this area and different levels of comfort when we're discussing our themes today. So please feel free to step out or step away. If you need a few minutes, you're very welcome to do that. And if there's anything that you want to follow up with us afterwards, feel free to get in touch. We know that we might not all agree with each other's viewpoints and everything discussed, and that's okay, but we just ask that we all agree to be respectful in our contributions and of each other. And as I say, feel free to follow up with us afterwards. Tony and Emma will be doing a Q&A section. I just want to flag for anybody that is looking to ask a question that Tony and Emma can't discuss individual children and family circumstances that you might be working with. They'll be able to give you details of a phone number and an email address to contact if there's something really specific that you'd like to discuss, but they're more than happy to answer questions about the different benefits and questions that you've got about particular areas that you would like to know a wee bit more about based on today's input. And like I say, Tony and Emma will also share the details of teams and queries, teams that queries can be forwarded to if you would like to follow up on anything if we're not able to address it in the rooms today. So if I could just ask everybody to switch off their camera and switch off their microphone, I will hand over to Emma to get started. Thanks, Emma.
Hi everyone, thanks for that, Linda. Good morning. So my name's Emma. I am from the National Engagement Team in Social Security Scotland, and I've come along with my colleague Tony today. So we're really excited to speak to you all, and thank you so much to Linda, Michelle and Michael for organising. I will warn you, we do have quite a lot to cover today. It might seem a wee bit overwhelming with the amount of information that we have, but please don't worry, we will have that question slot at the end and we will be telling you about the resources that we have available. Our inbox is always there as well, so please, if there's anything that you feel like you don't manage to capture today, we're happy to kind of pick that up, and we will be sharing the slides also. We will tell you a wee bit more about our website as well. We do have a lot of kind of resources, stakeholder fact sheets and information on our payments. So hopefully these will be really beneficial. But after today, fingers crossed, you will have a kind of better understanding of who we are and what we do. Okay, so this is just our agenda. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of Social Security Scotland, and I'll then talk you through our 5 family payments package. Tony's then going to give you an overview of Job Start Payment, and then we'll tell you a bit more about that support that's available. So just to give you a little bit of a kind of idea of our agency, we are an executive agency of the Scottish Government. We were created back in September 2018 and we'll soon be celebrating our 6th birthday. So we help the people of Scotland by delivering a number of social security payments. Our ethos is dignity, fairness and respect, and if you've ever come across our website or seen any of our materials, then the likelihood is that you're very aware of this phrase. That's because it's very much at the centre of everything that we do. So how we interact with clients, stakeholders and colleagues alike. Everything that we design and deliver, we very much keep this at the forefront of our minds. So just to give you an idea of the scope of our work, when all our benefits have been introduced and our clients have been transferred over from the Department for Work and Pensions, Social Security Scotland will support 2 million children and adults. So that's around 1 in 3 people in Scotland. So we deliver benefits for a variety of different groups in society. So this includes people on low incomes, people with a disability, carers and young people entering the workplace. We have our head office in Dundee, which is Agnes Husband House. This is the big glass building that you're probably aware of across from the V&A. And we also have a second operational site, which is in High Street in Glasgow. It's always been really important to us that our service is accessible for clients all over Scotland, no matter where they're located. And this is where our local delivery service comes into play. So these teams are based within every local authority across Scotland, and this is to support both clients and stakeholders in the local communities. But we will tell you a wee bit more about that in the presentation. Just to raise as well that we are not part of the Department for Work and Pensions. We are separate organisations, and Social Security is not a branch of Department for Work and Pensions. This used to be more of a kind of previous misconception, and as people become more aware of our brand, we don't hear this as much, but especially as we are kind of moving into newer client groups, such as those of a pension age, we just want to keep reminding people. So to give you a visualisation, you will see our kind of current 14 benefits on the screen just now. So today we'll be covering the 5 family payments and job start payment, but as you can see, it has been a very busy 5.5 years for us since we initially launched. And moving on to what our kind of future delivery will look like. So over the next couple of years, we will be launching another 3 benefits. So pension age disability payment, which will replace attendance allowance, pension age winter heating payment, which will replace winter fuel payment, and we also have employment injury assistance, which will replace industrial injuries benefit in Scotland. That's quite a mouthful. Both our pension age payments will start being rolled out later this year, and from the 21st of October, pension age disability payment will be piloted. That will be taking place in Argyll and Bute, Highland, Aberdeen City, Orkney and Shetland. And the benefit will become available in 13 more local authority areas from the 24th of March next year, before becoming available nationally across Scotland by the 22nd of April. So firstly, I'm going to talk you through our 5 family payments package. So as you may have guessed, these are 5 different payments which are intended to support families on a low income. So this is just a very quick overview of our 5 family payments that you can see on screen just now. So we have Scottish Child Payment, so this helps towards the cost of supporting a family. Our Best Start Grant and Best Start Food payments help towards the costs of being pregnant or looking after a child. Best Start Grant is made up of 3 one-off payments, so this includes the pregnancy and baby payment, the early learning payment and the school age payment. So these are fundamentally to provide support to families during key milestones of a child's life, such as starting school, going to nursery or the arrival of a baby. And then at the end there we have Best Start Foods. So this is money to buy healthy foods like milk or fruit. It is paid via a prepaid card that can be used in shops or online. And this was some of the feedback that we got from user research when we were launching Best Start Foods, was about the introduction of a card or kind of moving away from the usual vouchers, just because of the stigma that people still felt, and a card was very much welcomed. So let's start with pregnancy and baby payments. So this helps with the cost of having a baby. It can be claimed any time from the end of the 24th week of pregnancy until the baby is 6 months old. If someone is taken over looking after a child though, for example through adoption, then they can apply up to the day before the child's first birthday. So £754.65 is paid for the first child, with a payment of £377.35 for each subsequent child. There's also an additional multi-birth supplement of £377.35 to help with the costs of having more than one baby, so for example twins or triplets. There is more details available on the additional payments for multi-births, and I think Tony is going to kindly just pop that in the chat bar for us just now. We'll also share all these links separately after the event as well. Specifically for pregnancy and baby payment, in certain circumstances, someone can claim that higher rate of £754.65 for a child that isn't their first child. So, for example, if an individual has been granted refugee status, or they have been forced to leave their home with the other child or children they're responsible for due to domestic abuse by their partner or ex-partner. And this really just provides greater support for families who are more likely to be starting from scratch without the items that pregnancy and baby payment is intended to provide. So I know there is quite a few numbers up there and a lot of information, but please be rest assured that we will be sharing this after the presentation. So don't worry about madly scribbling this all down. So next up, we have our early learning payment. So this is a payment of £314.45 per child, and it can be paid when a child is aged between 2 years and 3 years and 6 months old. So to get this payment, a child doesn't actually need to take up a place at nursery, but the client has to apply when the child is within that correct age bracket, so 2 years to 3 years and 6 months old. It can be paid for multiple children as long as the child is within that age bracket that we've spoke about. And now moving on to school age payment. So this is a payment of £314.45 per child, and it helps with the cost of preparing for school when a child is first old enough to start primary school. So this one's slightly different. It has an application window which runs from the 1st of June to the last day in February, and this is in the year that their child is first old enough to start primary school. So children who do not start primary school or who defer starting until the following year should still apply during that initial window of that take-up year. So school age payment can be made for multiple children as long as each child is again within that correct age bracket. It's also worth pointing out that the school age payment has not replaced the school clothing grant. Details of this are available on the mygov.scot website, and Tony has just kindly popped that in the chat bar for us. So school age payment is very much a separate payment, and it does not affect payments of the school clothing grant in any way. So both can be applied for. So what are these payments for? These are designed to support clients during those milestones of caring for a child. It can be used for buying a pram, toys, school clothes, anything that the client or the child might need during these times. So as you can see on screen, this is the kind of feedback that we get from parents and families about what the payments are usually spent on, but obviously it is for the client to decide how that would best fit. So now I will take you on to Best Start Foods. So this launched back in 2019, and it was replacing the Healthy Start voucher scheme in Scotland. The aim of this is to help tackle the impacts of child poverty by supporting families on a low income to buy healthy foods. So it provides eligible pregnant people and families with children under the age of 3 with money to buy foods such as milk or fruit. The payment doubles when the child is under 1, and this is to support breastfeeding mothers or to help with the costs of providing first infant formula milk, as well as first infant formula. These payments are all made on a prepaid card, as we mentioned, and as you can see on screen, the amount is purely dependent on the age of the child, and this ranges from £21.20 to £42.20, and it's paid every 4 weeks. So just to really highlight that a person becomes eligible as soon as they find out that they are pregnant. So this is something that we're really actively trying to promote because we know that so many clients do end up applying later down the line. So we just want to make sure that people are receiving that as soon as they are eligible. What are these payments for? So this can be used to help clients buy healthy foods, and you can see on screen the list of approved foods that we have included. This is also included on the back of the Best Start Foods card as well. So we have plain cow's milk, the first infant formula, fruit and veg, pulses, beans, peas, and fresh eggs as well. So the Best Start Foods card can be used in a number of shops, big and small, as long as they stock the eligible foods shown on the card and display the MasterCard logo, then they are good to go. It can also be used online for shopping, and it's just used like a normal contactless bank card. Balances for the card can be checked online, over the phone, and also at a cash machine. But however, you cannot make withdrawals from the cash machine using the card. There's also information available online about what to do if you have lost a card, it's been stolen, how to request a new PIN, and Tony is just popping that in the chat bar for you just now. So on screen, you can actually see a picture of the card here, and this is also the AllPay logo. So clients will receive this card from our third-party supplier, which is AllPay, and this will include information on how to use the card and how to activate it. As you can see as well, it does very much look like a normal bank card, which was the kind of resounding feedback that we got during the user research when we were designing Best Start Foods. So there have been a few changes to Best Start Foods that came into force from the 26th of February this year, and we're very much keen to raise awareness of this. This is because around 20,000 more people in Scotland are now eligible for the benefit. So the main changes are that the income thresholds have been removed. This was a commitment in both the programme for government and also the latest Tackling Child Poverty Delivery Plan. Working tax credit is also a qualifying benefit in its own right now for Best Start Foods, and we've also aligned some of the eligibility with Best Start Grant just to improve that access for young parents. So earlier on this year, we also hosted a number of events to roughly 250 stakeholders just to talk them through these changes and make sure that themselves and the clients that they supported were aware of this. Okay, so moving away from our Best Start payments, we will now have a look at Scottish Child Payment. So this is to help towards the cost of supporting a family in Scotland. If the client is eligible, it is a weekly payment of £26.70 for every child under 16 years of age, and it's paid every 4 weeks. So if someone has 3 children and they're eligible, then they could be entitled to over £300 every month. So prior to November 2022, this was only available to children under 6 years of age, and this was later amended to include children under 16. So for any clients already claiming for a child under 6, additional children can be added to an existing claim by completing a change of circumstances form. But for those who had previously not been entitled due to the age of their children, they would have to complete a new application form. Okay, so we will now look at the eligibility for the 5 family payments as a whole and what this looks like. So clients may be eligible to get 5 family payments if all of the following apply. The client lives in Scotland, the client, their partner, are getting certain benefits or tax credits, the client or their partner are pregnant or were pregnant and are the main person looking after a baby or child who's the right age for a payment, or they may be looking after a pregnant person who is under 20. And as you can see on screen, we also have our qualifying benefits up there. So these are all the same for all of our 5 family payments. Again, please do not worry about madly scribbling these down. We will be sharing the slides and resources after the presentation. Okay, so we have highlighted some of the main points for eligibility for under 20-year-olds in this slide. So for anyone that's under 18, they do not need to be on any payments or benefits to get Best Start Foods. Someone else can apply for an under 18-year-old as long as they're in receipt of one of the benefits shown on screen for the young person in question. So similarly, For an 18 or 19-year-old who doesn't get any benefits or payments, they can still apply for Best Start Foods if their parent or carer are in receipt of one of the payments shown on screen. So this is just your usual child benefit, child tax credit, child payments from Universal Credit, or the child addition part of pension credit. So to show the client is the main person looking after a child, they must be named on either their or their partner's claim form for one of the benefits that you can see on screen, and it's just the same ones that we covered in that previous slide. So those who are kinship carers are eligible for Best Start grants also. We will need to see a letter from their local council or a copy of a legal order. So you can see on screen here the different types of orders that we accept. So this includes kinship care, residence order, or a guardianship order. And we're also aware that they may have a written kinship care agreement with their local council also. So we understand, especially when we talk about families, that applying for benefits can be quite time consuming. It can sometimes be stressful. People might find it difficult. So to really improve that client journey and make sure that people that are eligible are applying, if a client qualifies for Scottish Child Payment and their child is within the correct age bracket, we will check on our system if they qualify for the early learning payment, which is the nursery age, or the school age payment. So when we do that, Social Security Scotland would send the client a text or an email to let them know that we're checking this. And if they don't get Scottish Child Payment, then they would need to apply for these separately. We cannot automatically pay Best Start Grant Pregnancy and Baby Payment or Best Start Foods. But another thing that we have introduced to save time is making sure that Best Start Grant and Best Start Foods is a joint application with the option for the client to include Scottish Child Payment as well. So it really is just about simplifying it and making sure that that client journey is as easy and seamless as possible. And our kind of most recent feedback from clients is that an application form for the 5 family payments normally takes between 10 to 20 minutes. Okay, so I am now going to hand over to Tony, who is going to talk to us about Job Start Payment.
Thanks very much, Emma. So yes, as Emma says, I'll be covering Job Start Payment as well as some of the assistance and resources that are available to help you as stakeholders as well as clients. And I am aware that some of you may be particularly interested in Job Start Payment given some of the job roles that you have. So what is Job Start Payment then? It's a one-off payment of £314.45 and it's available to young people in Scotland who are on certain benefits and who also need help with the cost of starting a new job. And if the person has a child, they can qualify for £503.10. And it's worth pointing out that this money does not need to be paid back. It is there to, hang on a second, the joys of technology. Okay, it is there to help cover the cost of starting a new job, and that can include things like travel costs, lunches, clothing or uniforms, protective clothing or tools, even childcare costs. It can be used for anything the client wants or needs to use it for. We don't check what it'll be used for. We don't ask for receipts. This kind of does fall into our ethos of dignity, fairness and respect. We're going to pay the money to the client. It's entirely up to the client to use the money for whatever they need to use it for. And again, as I've said, it doesn't need to be paid back. To qualify, a client must live in Scotland. They must be aged between 16 and 24 on the date that the job offer was made. That's not necessarily the date that the job starts, but the date that the job offer was made. If the job offer is made on the day that they turn 25, They would not be entitled unless they were a care leaver, and I'll touch on what that means very shortly. They need to have been out of paid work for at least 6 months on the day that the job offer was made. Now, if someone has been doing voluntary work, that's fine. But if payments have been made, even if it's for just 1 day's work during that 6-month period, they would not be entitled unless it was a work trial, like a one-shift work trial, and they were paid for that one shift. We would disregard that, and the client would still be eligible. They must have been offered paid work for at least, on average, 12 hours a week over a 4-week period. It doesn't have to be exactly 12 hours every week. As long as over a 4-week period, it averages out to at least 12 hours a week. And they can't have already received Job Start payment previously in the last 2 years. Also worth pointing out, the Job Start payment can be claimed up to 6 months after the job offer was received. So if a couple of weeks or a couple of months go by, someone has started a job, they've received the job offer, they've started work, and they find out they could have claimed Job Start payment, as long as it's within that 6-month period of the job offer being made, they can still claim Job Start payment. As with the vast majority of our benefits, to qualify for Job Start payment, clients must have been receiving one of the following benefits on screens. That's universal credit, income support, job seekers allowance, income-based, or employment and support allowance, also income-based. And I did say that for care leavers, the eligibility is slightly different. They can apply if they're 25. They can also apply if they were out of work on the day the job offer was made without the need to meet that previous 6-month requirement. The qualifying benefits are again the same, but there is no need to have been receiving them for 6 months as long as they were in receipt on the day that the job offer was made. So that's quite substantially different. In a regular claim, they need to have been out of work for at least 6 months and in receipt of a qualifying benefit and under 25. For carers, they could be 25. They only need to have been in receipt of the benefit on the day that the job offer was made, and they only need to have been out of work again on the day that the job offer was made. The number of hours of work offered and not to have received Job Start payment within the last 2 years, that is unchanged. That's no different from a regular claim. Most of you will be aware of this, but care leavers, for those of you who don't know, are anyone who has spent time in either foster care, residential care, a secured unit, or formal kinship care placement on or after their 16th birthday. And with those who are care leavers, we will only ask for evidence of this if they are 25 and they haven't been in receipt of benefits or out of work for the 6 months. If someone is a care leaver and they're under the age of 25 and they have been in receipt of benefits for 6 months or more and out of work for 6 months or more, it makes no difference that they're a care leaver. We wouldn't ask them to provide any evidence. They wouldn't even have to make mention of it. It's only if they're outside those qualifying criteria, if they're 25 and have only been on benefits or out of work for a short period of time. A care leaver evidence form will be sent out as part of the application process, provided that they tell us that they've been in care at some point. And this will need to be signed, countersigned by a professional person, for example, a social worker, a doctor or nurse, a counsellor, family mediator, advocacy worker, lawyer or solicitor, teacher or advisor from a school or college. And then they make the claim, if it does come to light that they are a care leaver and that they do meet that criteria, our client advisors will keep them right on what it is that they have to provide with regards to filling in the care leaver evidence form. I also said at the start that those who are responsible for children could be entitled to a higher rate of Job Start payment, and clients will have to provide evidence they are responsible for a child or children. And this can be shown from a claim for universal credit, child tax credit, child benefit, for example. We at Social Security Scotland should be able to see if a claimant is receiving one of these benefits, but if for whatever reason we are unable to do so, clients who then may need to provide evidence that they were in receipt within the last 3 months. So that could simply be a letter from the Department for Work and Pensions or a copy of a bank statement. And when it comes to the bank statement, we've been asked this before, we would be checking the balance. We don't care how much money a person does or doesn't have in their bank account. JobStart payment isn't means tested. It would only so we could see the payments going in for either universal credit, the child tax credit, or child benefit, just to prove that they are in receipt of those benefits and are responsible for a child. If a client isn't receiving one of those three benefits, then they'll need some other form of supporting evidence. And that could be a copy of a legal order that demonstrates their responsibility. So, for example, a kinship care order, could be a residence order, certain orders made by courts outside of Scotland, or a letter from a solicitor or local authority to confirm that an order is in place and they are indeed responsible for a child. So in order to support a claim for JobStart payment, we at Social Security Scotland will require evidence of any job offer confirmation. This would be written proof from an employer, and any information will need to match what's provided on the application form. So we recently changed this. It used to be all 5 of the details on screen, but now it only needs to be 3 of the following 5 details. So that's essentially their name, the personal details, and that could be an address, an email address, a phone number. If the job offer confirmation was made by text or a mobile messaging app like WhatsApp, Messenger, it doesn't need to include one of those personal details. They'll need to provide potentially the name of the person who offered the job, one of the employer's details, and that could be the name of the employer's address, it could be their email address or the phone number. And if the name of the company is the same as the person who offered the job, then they'll need to provide their email address or phone number as well. And the date that obviously the job offer was made. And that's the date they had received written confirmation or some form of confirmation from the employer, not the date that they start the job, unless they do happen to be the same date. If someone is self-employed, they will need to send Social Security Scotland proof of an offer of work. So that could be a contract for work through a recruitment agency, it could be an agreement for recurring work, or it could be a letter confirming that they'd won a contract or an invitation to tender. If the job offer was made over the phone, they will need to ask the employer for a written job offer confirmation. They can send them that list of the details, and the employer can then provide that information to Social Security Scotland. I'm aware that this has been an awful lot of information. As with Emma and the 5 family payments, we're trying to condense it into as short a time frame as possible. But all this information will be made available to you. There'll be a copy of the slides, and we'll share some resources very, very shortly that will allow you to go in and look at all this in a little bit more detail. So that wraps up a selection of our low income benefits package, and what I'd like to do next then is take you through some further information on how to access our services and some of the support that is available. So people can access our services through the various points on screen. Applications or change of circumstances can be made online at the mygov.scot website. They can be made over the phone Monday to Friday, 8 AM to 6 PM on the free phone number 0800 182 2222. Clients can also request a paper form for us, and British Sign Language users can use the Contact Scotland app to contact us by video relay. Also, if a client doesn't want to or is unable to apply in English, they can apply over the phone in over 100 languages. We do use a translation service that can help someone get through an application or change of circumstances. There is also additional support available. We did mention this earlier, that we do have a local delivery service, and this is available across all 32 local authorities in Scotland, and some of you may already be familiar with our local delivery service. So they're really there to help support clients with their applications, to carry out identity or document checks, to help people submit change of circumstances, or help people submit a compliment, a complaint or feedback. And I think Emma has just popped a link to our local delivery service fact sheet into the chat bar. Our local delivery team can help in person. They can pop out to people's homes, or they could meet up in a local venue such as a library or a GP surgery over video or by phone. And to book an appointment, clients can call for free using that same free phone number, the 0800 182 2222. or they can use our web chat. Now, our local delivery relationship leads are also available to support yourselves as local organisations and stakeholders. So whether this is to answer general inquiries, it can be also to explore partnership working or to understand how we can promote Social Security Scotland payments to our shared client groups. We do usually have a list of the leads in all 32 local authorities. Unfortunately, we don't have that to hand. There is a bit of a restructuring going on in the local authority and certain people have moved on. So if we were to send you out the list, some of it would be obsolete. However, just this morning, I did receive a list of a handful of leads from some of the areas. I was lucky enough to be sent a list of some of the people that were attending today, and I managed to secure some local authority leads. I will be able to pass that over to Linda and Michelle, and they'll be able to share that out with you. Obviously, if your local authority isn't on that list, do get in touch with ourselves at National Engagement and we should be able to provide that for you. We also have a variety of online resources such as fact sheets and flyers that can be found for all our benefits and services in a variety of formats and languages, as well as some video clips and social media toolkits. These aren't necessarily available for every benefit, but by all means, do go on and have a look. Emma has just popped the link into the chat bar. There's also links to our guidance as well, if you're interested to go in and have a look to see how our advisors are pointed towards making decisions for some of our benefits. And when you're in either the guidance or the resources, if you scroll right down to the bottom, there is a link for you to sign up to our stakeholder newsletter, and this will keep you up to date of any changes, any events, any changes to the spaces within Social Security Scotland. So if you haven't already done so, I would definitely recommend that you sign up for our newsletter. So just before we finish today, we do like to ask what more can we do for you. However, in this morning, we'll be using the first couple of questions as discussion points in our breakout session. So something for you to think about then for going into that session is what channels are most effective in reaching you or your organisation or any relevant groups within education settings, or if you're not in an education setting within your particular organisation. So what channels are most effective for you? And also, as kind of as a follow-up to that, how do you currently receive information about support which may exist for pupils, students, their families, or clients? The third one is really more of a plea from us. If you have supported someone to apply for one of our benefits, case studies, we're always on the lookout for clients who want to share their story about applying for a benefit for us. And this is really important as it allows potential clients to hear from someone firsthand about their experience. And often they can more identify with hearing someone who's just like them talking about what it was like for them to claim the benefits. So if you do have someone you've supported to apply for one of our payments who may be interested, then please do get in touch with us at National Engagement Team. I'll ask Emma to pop our email address and right on cue, it has popped into the chat bar. Now, this could be completely anonymous. It could be, does this want to supply a quick blurb? Or if they're happy to do a short video or a full interview, we're always open to our ideas, and our communications team would be delighted to have someone offer to help out in any way, any shape or form. If you want to keep up to date with us, as I said, the stakeholder newsletter is probably the best way to do so, but we do also have a presence on social media. We have the X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, and that's probably more for yourselves as stakeholders. It tends to be more corporate updates there. LinkedIn, and the client-facing side of our social media tends to go through Facebook. And thank you again for inviting us to come along, and thank you for listening. I know there's been an awful lot of information and you won't have absorbed most of it, to be honest, but information on all our low-income benefits, as I say, is available on our website, our corporate website, and the mygov.scot website. So please do visit these for further information. And that is us for today. So I will just close this down and hand you back to Linda.
Thank you so much to you, Tony, and also Emma. as you said, that was a huge amount of information, but I found the way that it was structured, the information that you gave us, it was really helpful way to understand what might be available. And I certainly learned things that I wasn't aware of in terms of what people might be entitled to, eligibility criteria. So thank you so much for that. I can see some comments in the chat saying that it was really helpful. We do have a few minutes now for some questions and answers. I don't think we've got any questions that have come through in the chat. So if I could just invite people to put their hand up if they've got any questions or any reflections. Please don't be shy.
What I would also say is you might come away from this this morning in an hour, a day, a week's time, think, actually, I should have asked the question. Do get in touch with us at the National Engagement Team with any questions like that. And if we can't answer it, we will certainly get in touch with a colleague from either a policy or programme or comms team who will be able to answer the question. And that goes likewise for this morning. Emma and I are not policy, we're not we're kind of experts in our field, but we're not the real experts in our field. So we might not have the answer to your questions this morning, but we can certainly take the question away and get a fuller answer for you.
Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any hands up.
That's either a good thing or a bad thing.
I think it's a good thing. I might be really selfish there and jump in because I had a couple of questions that occurred to me, if that's all right with you guys. In terms of the care leaver eligibility for the Job Start payment, I was really interested in that, and the flexibility that's been applied, and I suppose in recognition of the additional vulnerabilities that care leavers might face. Yeah. But I was just wondering, Tony, if I could clarify that if a care leaver is applying for the Job Start grant, it doesn't matter how long that young person has been out of work for. Could it be a day? Could it be 3 days? Could it be 6 months? There's no.
No, no, absolutely not. It could be they have simply been out of work and received the benefit. Day one, they get a job offer on day one. They would qualify for Job Start payment if they meet all the other criteria and can provide all the support and evidence.
So again, that means we know that sometimes things can be quite precarious for our care leaver. I'm thinking of the young people that have maybe had to quite unexpectedly move house.
Yeah.
So they've maybe had a job or been in training or other education and not been able to sustain that because they've had to move house unexpectedly. So that removes that barrier, I think, in terms of.
Absolutely. As long as it's just on the day that the job offer is made, Linda, then, and say, provided they meet all the qualifying criteria, they would be entitled. One other thing, if I can just also put out a plea, we know that not just the care leavers, but this particular age group for this benefit, the 16 to 24-year-olds, sometimes if we're calling them back to request perhaps some support and information, they don't pick up their phones. And we'll phone, and if we can't get the support and information, we have to close down the claim. We have to deny it, and it does have quite a high denial rate, Job Start payment, and I think that's part of it. We are trialling an SMS text service that will send them a text to say, hey, we're going to phone you at some point in time today. And that has actually, I can't give out the information because it's top secret, but it has yielded some benefits. It does seem to be improving. I mean, I think we're at week 15 of the trial, and it is encouraging, shall we say. But it would still be a plea that if you're supporting someone in a claim, if you can try and reinforce the point that we may get in touch with them and it's definitely in their interest because they could be entitled to £300, just over £300, or if they have children, over £500, and that money is there to help them to get back on their feet, to help them prepare for starting a new job. So that was just another additional plea for me, is please encourage them to pick up their phone and speak to their advisors when they call.
No, thank you. And I think that's a really good flag, actually, because we know just from our work with other organisations that can be a bit of a barrier for other organisations trying to contact young people. So I think the text trial is a really good way of maybe trying to navigate some of that. I know that there's some other organisations doing that too. So, but we'll certainly make sure that we're spreading the word about that too.
Thanks.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, and I can't see any more hands up. No more takers. I'll just ask one more question, and I promise, and then we'll go into breakout room. So this one was about the best start grant. Sorry, I was looking, so I wrote it down. direct payment that goes to people in terms of, does that go into people's bank accounts, or is it a prepaid card like the Best Start Foods grants? Emma, just again to get an understanding of the different ways that people get
Yes.
access to it.
Yep. So the Best Start grants, which is like the pregnancy and baby, the school age payment, the early learning payment, all get paid into a bank account, and Scottish Child Payment gets paid into a bank account. Your Best Start Foods to buy healthy foods goes on that prepaid card. So that is the only one that's got a separate method of payment coming through, and it is really just so that people can go into the shops, they've got it there, it looks like a usual bank card, they can do the contactless, and it hopefully just makes it more usable and more user friendly.
Thank you. And just like you were saying, Tony, with the Job Start grant, it doesn't need to be paid back, and there's no need for any evidence. I hate the word evidence, but there's no need for receipts or evidence of what people have spent that on. People are able to make their own judgments about what they need and how they spend it.
Exactly, and it all comes back to the dignity, fairness and respect, because all families are different, and all families kind of support their children differently, and they might need different things during these milestone eras. So no, we don't ever ask for receipts, and it's always lovely to hear about the changes it's made to a family or what they've been able to purchase with it, and that's why we are so grateful for the case studies. We've had mums say it's great just to kind of have a wee bit more freedom when it does come that time that the kids need clothes, etc., or parents that say even just like to have money to go and do something with the kids. So yeah, we really would appreciate any case studies, as it's always great to hear that it's making a difference.
That's great, thank you. And I think as well, what you guys flagged during your presentation as well, is that sometimes people can be a wee bit reluctant or maybe not understand how these payments can be used. So I think case studies which illustrate that there's other people in similar circumstances can be really helpful for other families that might be a wee bit reluctant or not sure what it's all about. So yes, I would reinforce that if there's anybody that knows of people who have been in receipt of these payments that it's been beneficial for, that would like to share their stories, it's always good to get the word out. I am not seeing, oh sorry Tony, on you.
I was just going to say, and likewise, we know that some people that are care leavers don't like to talk about it. It's not experience that they particularly want to share with other people. But if through those circumstances they would qualify for the Job Start payment, we would appreciate them being encouraged. It's confidential. It doesn't go anywhere. We don't tell anybody about it. We don't tell employers about it. It's only to ensure that if they've been out of work for less than 6 months, in receipt of benefit for less 6 months, and they may be 25, they may be out of the traditional age range for Job Start payment, it could be an extra few £100s that comes in and hopefully makes life a little bit easier for them. So yeah, we would appreciate case studies for that in particular. I think would be quite helpful.
Brilliant. Thank you. And we do have one hand up just before we go into the breakout room. So Anita, I will come to you.
Hi there. Thank you, Linda. Thanks, Tony and Emma, for the presentation. Very, very useful indeed. My role is Employability Development Officer at Scottish Refugee Council, and I wasn't aware of the Job Start payment. So thank you very much for that information. One thing that I was wondering is, Job Start payment is sort of related to paid employment. Would somebody be eligible if they were starting self-employment?
Yes, absolutely. That was mentioned in just towards the end of the Job Start presentation. If someone is self-employed, then they need to send us proof of an offer of a work or contract. So that could be through a recruitment agency, it could just be an agreement for recurring work, or it could be a letter confirming that they've won a contract or an invitation to tender. So for self-employed, absolutely, they would still be entitled, provided they meet all the other qualifying criteria, Anita.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I probably just missed that when I popped out.
No worries.
No, so I think that's a really good question, Anita, because we know again that there is a rise in people starting their own business or being self-employed, and I think that can be quite transformational for people that are at that point in their journey. So thank you, Anita, that was a great question. I think we are ready to go into our breakout rooms. So while Michelle organises us with that, I will just remind people that the questions that we'll be looking at are: what channels are most effective in reaching your organisation or any relevant groups within education settings? And also, how do you currently receive information about support which might exist for pupils, students and their families? I think there's a really nice opportunity here for us to have a bit of a discussion about how the information that we need, information like this, gets to us, what would help, what's working really well. But we're also just really keen to hear your ideas about other ways, communication methods, networks that this information could come through to make sure that we're getting information like this so that we can get it to the children and families that we work with. So we'll be in our breakout groups for 15 minutes until 11:15. When we come back, we'll just take a couple of bits of feedback from each group and answer any final questions before finishing up. So just to say thank you again to Tony and Emma for giving us such a good springboard for those discussions in our groups. And Michelle, I will ask you to do your behind the scenes magic. We usually just use the last sort of 5 minutes for a bit of feedback from the group so that we can hear what the other groups have been talking about. So Michael and Tony, can I come to you first just for a bit of feedback about what the discussion was in your breakout room?
One of the overwhelming themes was how much people enjoyed these sessions and how perhaps bespoke sessions for their particular organisations would probably be very, very welcome. So yeah, that's something to think about, whether it would be ourselves at local delivery, ourselves at national engagement or our local delivery colleagues. But certainly put it out there that if people are interested in having us come along to discuss any of our benefits, as I pointed out, we do have other benefits, not just the ones we spoke about this morning, then by all means give us a shout at national engagement and we can at least have a discussion about it, and whether it be ourselves or local delivery that come out, we're more than happy to do it.
Brilliant, Tony, thank you. Michael, was there anything else from your group that you wanted to?
I'll probably be slightly repetitive, but I think it's worth repeating it. Like the first message around overcoming barriers, if there's any issues, ring them up and they will try and sort it out. We know that unaccompanied asylum-seeking families, we know that care-experienced young people face particular barriers, and the messages ring up, they'll try and sort it. And as Tony said, ** request for bespoke sessions. This is live information which is changing all the time, and people really want to be able to interact with it. And Tony finished the session by saying we've been around for 6 years and still people are trying to get the information or are unaware. So an absolute willingness to give the information to different people in the sector.
Thank you, Michael. Emma, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise something before I forget, because I've only had half a cup of coffee, so my memory's like a sieve just now. Another thing to say is, as much as we are more than happy to come out and do these bespoke sessions, we are also more than happy to come along to events. So our team in particular, we'll go to like a lot of the kind of national events, like the Child Poverty Action Group conference, the Voluntary Health Scotland. But if you or your organisation or your team, etc., are hosting events, please let us know. And either ourselves or local delivery are more than happy to come along and speak to people, whether it be something that's set up, just locally with small groups or kind of wider. Please get in touch and we'd be happy to attend those as well.
Thank you, Emma. And I think that's important as well, because we are seeing an increase again post-COVID in more face-to-face, national events. And I think people really value that opportunity to go along and speak to people face-to-face. So thank you for letting us know about that. Michael or Tony, is there anything else from your groups that you wanted to raise or flag or make sure that we had captured?
I think that was it, Linda. Unless I've
Brilliant.
forgotten something, Michael.
Yes, looking ahead. Brilliant. Emma, will we come to our group?
Yep, so we had a really good discussion, and I think one of the main points that came out of it was having information available in different formats. You know, a lot of people are still very much interested in leaflets, flyers, having something there that's printed, because I think a lot of organisations have moved to digital and social media, whereas it's not always kind of what the client needs or what the client uses. So we were talking about that and the importance of still having those leaflets available. One of the other things again was around the bespoke sessions and coming out and speaking to organisations, and also understanding that what might happen in one local authority or what teams or support might be available isn't the same in another local authority, but the kind of importance of not knowing everything, but maybe knowing who the right person is or how we can signpost effectively is a really big part of it.
Thank you, Emma. And I think the only thing that I've got to add from our group is we had a really nice discussion just about the how powerful word of mouth can be for parents and carers or others who are already in receipt of benefits or awards, talking to other parents and carers about their own experiences. And I think that speaks to Emma and Tony, your request for case studies to be able to spread that word, because we know that sometimes the most powerful thing is that peer support that people can get, you know, hearing about the difference that things have made to their own life, or how the application process was, or overcoming barriers. So I think as well, just, you know, a discussion in our group that we don't, you know, as a sector overlook that, just about how important parents and carers themselves are and advocating for themselves and each other. So I think that was a really nice flag. And I think it was really good just again to be reminded that we don't always all need to know all of the details. It is sometimes just having a knowledge that these supports are available and that they're out there, and who to signpost or who to go to. And I think that's been a really nice invitation, Emma and Tony, this morning, about phone us, get in touch with us. If we don't know the answer, we'll link you up with people who can help, because it does just remind us that we don't need a huge level of detail. It's about the awareness and making sure that we're making the links between the people that need them to be made. So thank you very much for that. Can I ask if there's any final questions, final reflections, or any more insights before we finish up this morning? No? Michael?
I just wanted to catch the values, the dignity, fairness, and respect. They just seem to be embodied and very real in what you were saying, and I really appreciated that. We all know of horror stories of people applying for support and coming up against barriers or being traumatized by it, and it was just so refreshing to see what you were saying embodied. That was something that we missed from the discussion that I just wanted to catch.
Thank you, Michael. And yeah, just to echo that, we really appreciate you taking the time to come along. And I think so often putting faces and voices to, you know, national organisations it's a support in itself for practitioners. So we really appreciate you taking the time to do that this morning, Emma and Tony. And I just want to say thank you for all the prep that you've put into today and coming to share things. And I'm sure it will not be the last that you see or hear from many of us in this room after the input this morning. So thank you very much for that. Is there anything that you guys want to add before we finish up?
I think just, you know, thank you so much for having us along. You know, this really makes our role easier and what we're trying to achieve, and just making sure that people know that, you know, this money is there for them, it's theirs, and as much as we can do to kind of get that word out, and also to make, you know, your lives easier and your teams and your organizations, and being able to kind of join the dots and do that signposting. So no, it's been, you know, a really great experience, so thank you so much for having us along.
Yeah, I think Emma's kind of summed it up. I mean, I like to think this is just the start of a beautiful friendship between us all. I mean, it's This is what Emma and I do. We come out and speak to people like yourselves. We don't do it just because we get paid to do it. We do it because we want to ensure that the people of Scotland are getting everything that they're absolutely entitled to. And the point I made in our little breakout group is we rely heavily on you as stakeholders to get that information out there. However, you can't do that unless we as a team come out and impart that knowledge, signpost you to where you need to go. So really, thank you, Linda, thank you, Michelle, thank you, Michael, for having us along this morning, giving us this opportunity to make these connections with everyone that we've spoken to today, and hopefully we make a few more connections out of this. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tony and Emma. And just to reiterate, in terms of the next steps, as we said several times, we are recording this. We will collate everything. We will put it on our Celsius website. We will follow up and let everybody know with a link to that when it's ready. Please feel free to share that far and wide with your team, with anybody that you think it would be relevant to. And if you have got any questions, please feel free to follow up with us. We'll also make the PowerPoint, the notes from the breakout rooms and contact details of Social Security Scotland available on that website. So you should have everything that you need. Say a very big thank you to my Celsius colleagues who have been working away behind the scenes and organising today and keeping us going throughout the event and on the follow-up. And a big thank you to you for your time and coming along this morning and engaging in the discussions. And Tony and Emma, it's been great to have you, and please let us know if there's anything in the future that you want to update us on or come back. It'd be great to have you again in the future. Absolutely. So thank you again, everyone. I hope you all have a very good Thursday, and we will see you at our next forum meeting, which will be in September, and we will send an email out with more information about that nearer the time. But I hope you all have a lovely day, and it was really great to see you all.